Shalom. Should a man rob God? I'm sure you've heard this quoted before. It's a very popular verse by those who teach that you should be giving 1/10 of your income, a tithe, to a church. Is this what Yahuwah is asking you to do today? Should you be giving 1/10 of your wages to a church? I'm Moriah Ben Avraham. Join me today here on Talmidei Yahuwah. We're going to talk about the truth of tithing. We're going to cover 3 points. We're going to look first of all at what exactly is tithing. What is a tithe? Secondly, we're going to see what is tithable. Should you be tithing wages? That's a very important question, especially in our world today. And thirdly, we're going to look at who tithes, if you should tithe, should be given to. So, let's get into it. Many Christian churches quote this verse from the Bible. Will a man rob God? Now, if you've been following this channel, we do have a video on the topic, who or what is God? And I invite you to look at that video because we don't really use the word God for the creator. We know better than that. The Hebrew word that's translated, or shall I say substituted here as God, is actually the Hebrew word Elohim, which means the strongest revealed authority. So the question that was being posed in this verse from the book of Malachi is, will a man rob Elohim? And then it goes on to say, yet you have robbed me, but you say, wherein have we robbed you? And it says, in tithes and offerings. This is in the book of Malachi, chapter 3 and verse 8. Keep in mind, this verse is quoted by many ministers in many different churches. And most of those churches don't even believe that you should be following the Old Testament. They say the law is done away. So why then do they pull this verse out of the very verses they say are done away and quote it often to put fear in you, to scare you into giving up 1/10 of your income? Not every book that's been compiled and grouped with other books is Kodesh. If you don't understand that topic, I invite you to watch our series on the key to understanding the word of Yah, where we explain that what's really Kodesh is what Yahuwah said, not the ideas and teachings of men or even the writings of men. And not every book that's been grouped together as part of what now is called a Bible is literally Kodesh. We're going to focus on what Yah has said here, especially as what is recorded in what we would call the Torah. Let's just, though, first of all, understand why are Christians constantly quoting this, and does it even make sense? Like, let's say, for example, you're a Christian. You don't even believe that we should be following the law, as many Christians say. So should you be tithing? Because does the New Testament support tithing? I'm going to first of all show you that if you're just following the New Testament, as I like to call it, the Greek text, because in order for there to be new, there must be an old. There's no such thing as an Old Testament. So we should not refer to the books that Yahuwah inspired as the Old Testament, and we should not refer to the Greek text as the New Testament. In the Greek text, in the book of Matthew, chapter 10, verses 5 through 11, it says here, these 12 Jesus sent forth and commanded them, saying, go not into the way of the Gentiles, and into any city of the Samaritans enter you not, but go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Yisrael. And as you go, preach, saying, the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Heal the sick, cleanse the lepers, raise the dead, cast out devils. Freely you have received, freely give. Did you catch that? Freely you have received, freely give. It goes on. Provide neither gold nor silver, nor brass in your purses, nor scrip for your journey, neither two coats, neither shoes, nor yet staves. For the workman is worthy of his meat, and into whatever city or town you shall enter, inquire who in it is worthy, and there abide till you go thence. From these verses that we just read in the New Testament, as it's so called, we're seeing that Jesus instructed his ministers not to demand tithes, not to go around carrying a money bag. He commanded his ministers to go wherever you're worthy. People are going to receive you and they're going to freely give you gifts. We can see this even more clearly in the book of Luke. If you're following the Greek text doesn't support the idea of tithing. That's what we're trying to wake you up to see. Here in the book of Luke, according to what many people are still believing in, even in that text, tithing isn't supported. It says here, after these things, the Lord appointed other 70 also, and sent them 2 and 2 before his face into every city. Skipping down, it says, carry neither purse nor scrip nor shoes, and salute no man by the way. And into whatsoever house you enter, first say, peace be to this house. And if the Son of Peace be there, your peace shall rest upon it. If not, it shall turn to you again. And in the same house remain. In other words, if the house receives you, you stay there, eating and drinking such things as they give. Not tithes. Don't go into somebody's house and say, okay, now make sure you give me 1/10 of all your wages. That's not what it says. Whatever they give, that's what you eat. For the laborer is worthy of his hire. Go not from house to house. Oh, don't go from house to house. And in whatsoever city you enter and they receive you, eat such things as are set before you. Heal the sick that are therein, and say unto them, the kingdom of God is come near unto you. But in whatsoever city you enter, and they receive you not, go your way out of the streets of the same, and say, even the very dust of your city which cleaves unto us, we do wipe off against you. Notwithstanding, be you sure of this, that the kingdom of God is come near unto you. So this was the instruction of Jesus to his disciples who were going out as ministers. He's basically saying, you're not in this ministry to get rich. You're not going to carry with you a money bag. A scrip is a money bag. Don't carry no money bag. Don't carry any scrip. You're going to go, and whatever people freely give. In other words, the ministry of Jesus was supposed to be based off of free will offerings. If they said something before, you eat it. If they don't, then they're not worthy. You move on. But you're not there to get rich. Whatever coat you come in, you leave with the same coat. Whatever clothes, shoes you come with, you leave with the same shoes. You're not supposed to be dressed up in the finest style. You're not supposed to be driving the most expensive car, flying in the most expensive jet. That's not the ministry that the New Testament supports. Now, these verses are very clear about what the New Testament ministry is supposed to be like. In fact, the New Testament idea of how a congregation is supposed to live is a socialist construct, not the capitalist construct that so many people who believe they're following the New Testament are actually thinking is the correct way to construct an economic system for their society. Just look at the book of Acts. I'm not going to try to read the whole book for you, but if you read through the book of Acts, you'll see that those churches that started up when Christianity first started, as recorded in the book of Acts, they lived in a socialist structure. Let's just highlight that by looking at a couple of quick verses. Then they that gladly received his word were baptized. And the same day there were added unto them about 3,000 souls. And they continued steadfastly in the apostles' doctrine and fellowship, and in breaking of bread, and in prayers. And fear came upon every soul. And many wonders and signs were done by the apostles. And all that believed were together, and had all things common, and sold their possessions and goods, and parted them to all men as every man had need. And they, continuing daily with one accord in the temple, and breaking bread from house to house, did eat their meat with gladness and singleness of heart. So notice here the way that they were living together. They all had all things common. You see? They were basically sharing everything. Nobody was trying to capitalize on someone else. They sold their possessions and goods and parted them, They distributed their wealth among the entire community. Does that sound like something you hear from modern day Christians that they want to practice? I don't think so. The economic model expressed in these verses is not a model of tithing. It is a socialist structure similar to the kibbutz communities that were established at the founding of the modern state of Israel. But there's simply no talk here of tithing. The ministry of the New Testament was to be based off of free will offerings, not based on tithes. Now, that point is clear, what does the Torah actually teach about tithing? That's what we're going to focus on for the rest of this video. So let's start by looking at the command, the clear instruction from Yahweh, and that is found in the book of Vayikra, Leviticus, as the Greeks renamed it. But we always try to teach you and show you and refer to these books by the original names of the books, not by the substitute names, the disrespectful way that the Greeks treated our text, renaming all of our books. No, we're going to go back to the original Hebrew names and refer to them with respect. Just like I want you to respect me, call me by my Hebrew name. I'm offended if you call me by my slave name. Let's not call the books of the Torah by slave names. Let's refer to the books of the Torah with the original Hebrew names. So in the book of Vayikra, chapter 27, I'm going to read verses 30 and verse 32. It says, "And all of the tithes of the land, whether of the seed of the land or of the fruit of the tree, is Yahweh's. It is holy unto Yahweh." Verse 32, "And concerning the tithe of the herd or of the flock, even whatsoever passes under the rod, the 10th shall be holy unto Yahweh." The word translated here as tithe is the Hebrew word Maaser, and it simply means a tenth. And so Yahweh commanded the children of Israel to give 1/10 to him. The tithe belongs to Yahweh. So a tithe, what is a tithe? A tithe is 1/10, but 1/10 of what? Let's read this verse again. 1/10 of what? What are we talking about here? And all the tithe of the land. First of all, we're talking about the tithe of the land. Whether of the seed of the land or of the fruit of the tree is Yahweh's. Category 1, tithes are based off of what you grow on the land. So if you own land and you have a harvest and you reap your harvest, 1/10 is what belongs to Yahweh. Also, it says here, if you have a herd or a flock, every animal that passes under the rod, 1/10, it says, shall belong to Yahweh. So basically, as the animals go under the rod, every 10th one was taken up to the side, and that's the one that belonged to Yahweh. That's the tithe. A tithe is 1/10 of the animals, these flock animals like cattle, sheep, goats, or it's 1/10 of what you grow in that particular year. A tithe is not your wages. That's the clear point that we're seeing here. Tithes are not wages. See, according to the Torah, you're only supposed to tithe off of the produce from the land. You're not tithing wages. So let's suppose you don't own land. Even in ancient Israel, if you did not own land and you were a hired laborer, that meant that you were helping an actual landowner reap his crops. When the landowner reaped his crops, he gave a tithe of what his increase, right? He gave a tithe of his seed, what he grew. But the laborer who only got a day wage, he never tithed. Because wages are not tithable. You don't own anything. You have no increase. You don't tithe wages. And that applies right down to this day. If you're working for a company, you earn a wage. That is simply not tithable. You only tithe if you are having an increase of crops or increase of your flocks or your herd. That's what the Torah says. Don't make it up. Don't say, oh, well, I'm just going to do what I'm going to say that anything is a tithe. Anything is not a tithe. Wages are not tithable. Finally, who do tithes go to? Were tithes then to just be given to any organization? Is it a principle we're supposed to get from this? No. We're supposed to give the tithes to whom Yehovah says they belong to, and no one else, because the tithes actually belong to Yehovah. We read of this in Bamidbar, chapter 18, verses 21 through 24. And behold, I have given the children of Levi all the tenth, that is the tithe, the Maaser is the Hebrew word, in Israel for an inheritance for their service which they serve. In other words, it's an exchange. They're going to do work in the temple, and in exchange for that work, they're not going to have their own land. That's really what's being said here. But this is about the temple. It's not about churches. This is about the Mishkan. This is about the place of Yehovah's dwelling in the midst of the children of Israel. There was only one such place. That's where the Ark of the Covenant was. And if you don't have the Ark of the Covenant, you don't have a temple. Okay? If Yehovah's not dwelling in the building, then it's not a temple. It's not the place where the Levi'im should be working for their service which they serve. Even the service of the Mishkan of the congregation. Neither must the children of Israel henceforth come near the Mishkan of the congregation, lest they bear het. It says, but the Levi'im shall do the service of the Mishkan of the congregation, and they shall bear their iniquity. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations that among the children of Israel they have no inheritance. See, when the children of Israel go into the land, children of Levi were not going to inherit land. They have no inheritance, but the tithes of the children of Israel, which they offer as a heave offering unto Yehovah, I have given to the Levi'im to inherit. Therefore I have said unto them, among the children of Israel, they shall have no inheritance. So instead of inheriting land, the children of Levi did the work of the Mishkan, that is the place of Yehovah's dwelling, what's translated here as tabernacle, kind of a weak translation because it doesn't give you the sense of Yehovah dwelling there. But they did the work of the tabernacle, and in exchange for that, how are they going to eat if they don't have land and they don't farm and they don't have cattle? They're busy in the temple. Well, Yehovah gave them the tithe that the children of Israel were giving to Yehovah. So Yehovah receives the tithe and gave it to the children of Levi. That's what tithing was in ancient Israel. Only someone of the tribe of Levi could actually receive tithes. If you were not of the tribe of Levi and you received tithe, then you would be breaking the Torah, breaking the commands. Now, some may say, well, can't we just take that principle? You see, the ministers today are serving in the church, and therefore we could take the principle from what was done in the Torah and apply it today. The tithe can't be substituted. You cannot take what belongs to Yah and say, okay, therefore I'm going to give it to this organization I choose, or I'm going to give it to this person because I think he's doing something that's valuable. I'm talking namely about ministers, right? You can't do that. If the so-called minister is not literally a descendant of Levi, he's not a member of the tribe of Levi, you cannot give him tithes. And of course, if you're taking 1/10 of your job income, that's not tithes. 1/10 of your income is not a tithe. Your tithe can only be of what grows. Your tithe can only be of the herds of your flocks, the cattle, etc. Those animals that we saw as recorded in the book of Vayikra. That's it. And if it doesn't fall in those categories, don't call it a tithe. It should be thought of, if you want to give a free will offering, give your free will offering. But don't scare people, making them think that they're robbing the Creator if they're not giving 1/10 of their income. That simply is not the truth. It's interesting for me to note also that even among those who are practicing Judaism today, even the rabbis, they do not require tithing because the rabbis concluded that ever since we were exiled from the land of Israel, that we couldn't tithe. Many rabbis concluded that tithing was only applicable in the land of Israel. So let's not deceive ourselves. Let's not deceive others either. Let's not scare people by quoting verses out of context. The context of the Torah and of the children of Israel is very clear. Tithing is important, but tithing is for the children of Israel off of land ownership and the increase of herds and flocks. Let's not be deceived, and let's not deceive others. Rather, buy the truth and sell it not. Wisdom and instruction and understanding. If you enjoyed this video, please click the like and subscribe button. Share this with your friends. And join us here for every piece of truth we share as we collectively do to Shuvah, our return to Yehovah. Shalom.